This is intended for Michael Gels. This is a circuit that used to be a disposable camera, and it's been cannibalized quite a bit, as you can see. A couple other circuits and a circuit board, some alligator clips. And what I've done here is normally a high voltage is put in between the flash bulb, and that looks like this. And the flash bulb, it's a xenon flash bulb, and what you actually do is you put an even higher voltage on the order of 10,000 volts as opposed to aforementioned 300 volts. And the very, very high voltage does not have a lot of current, but it's enough to trigger a plasma pathway through the xenon tube. And once that pathway is created, the lower 300-ish volts from the capacitor, which looks like this, is then allowed to flow through at high currents and very, very high speeds to the flash bulb, and that's how the camera works. Now what I've done is totally bypass the xenon flash tube. So I've pulled out the leads with a some wires, some solder, and alligator clips, and over here on the circuit board I was having trouble making a small enough spark gap because air does not take electricity as well as the xenon flash tubes do. So what I've done is made a very, very small cuts in the circuit board, in the corner of the circuit board, and the middle one is the very high voltage, and the two yellow ones are around 300 voltage. So when the very high voltage is triggered to around 10K, the current is allowed to flow through at 300 volts, and what you get is a really, really fantastic spark gap, and this would be ideal for something along the lines of a potato cannon because there is no mechanical parts. You just put this part here that I'm, have the camera on in the chamber, and it does a very, very reliable job igniting just about whatever gas you have in there, as long as it's flammable or a flammable mixture. So then to trigger it, you just put an ordinary push button switch on this side, nothing major. I do have a little normal igniter here that I was experimenting with earlier, but all you have to do is connect these two wires. So I'll connect the two wires while I have the camera on the spark gap and see if you think this is impressive. Hold on a moment. Alright. Ready? Now, that's a lot of current, and it does not take that long to charge up. So you'll see this light will appear in a second. There we go. So that means it's fully charged and ready for another go. So that was only 10 or so seconds, and my battery is actually running low. So I'd say that's pretty good. And the best part is, if you ever want to beef up this spark, it's really, really easy. You can add a couple extra little spark gaps using a circuit board, just the way I've done here. And then on top of that, you can add in more capacitors in parallel. So there's just one 80 microfarad or so capacitor in there, and I have another 80 microfarad here, and then I have this is a 160, I think. Yep, so 160, and then I have probably 4 or 5 other capacitors. So you can create a really excellent spark gap. Just thought you'd find that somewhat interesting.